name's Mel Brown, and this is episode 39 of my crafting podcast. This is my fortnightly vlog about knitting, crochet, weaving, yarn dyeing, spinning, anything else that seems like a good idea at the time. I'm an autistic woman living in North Yorkshire in the north of England with my husband, our 3 daughters and 3 cats. You can find me on social media. On Instagram I'm Mel Brown Crafting Podcast and also Creative Escape Retreats. And on Ravelry I am Funky40, and we have a Ravelry group for this podcast on there, and that's where the show notes are hosted. So if I say anything today that you're interested in, patterns, people, places, then there will be a link underneath this video and you'll be able to go across to Ravelry where there will be clickable links to everything, and also an opportunity to comment there or ask questions. So that's the intro. It's only taken me 4 or 5 times to get that right. So let's get going. Let's start with where are they now? What's happened to the projects you saw before? Well, the memories blanket is as ever tucked away, ready for winter. Haven't done anything with that yet this summer. And then the next one is Lula. Now, I put a marker in last time how far I've actually progressed. So you'll be able to see that there's not an awful lot of progress. So this is a paid for pattern, isn't it? Yeah. And it's a lovely lacy crochet pattern in 4-ply. I am using a wonderful great big long 730 meter cake from these guys. That's my stitch marker. That's who that's from. It's merino and silk, absolutely gorgeous. And that's the stitch marker. That's who the stitch marker's from. That's happened to be in my bag as well. So it's a really lovely pattern. I've talked about it before, so I'm not going to talk much about it today. But you can see how far I've got. So here's my little Dina's flip-flop. And this is how far I've got, so not an awful lot of distance. But you know what, this is going to be plodding away. If you've been watching for a while, you'll have seen there's a little bit of progress every time, and it will carry on like that for quite some time, until I can smell the end of the project, and then I shall go mad on it and probably work on nothing else. But it's really, really nice. I was teaching crochet yesterday. I've got a group that I taught at the library. It's a free session, well, free from my end. The library doesn't pay me. The people who come along just pay £2 and they get a coffee included in that, so that's really what they're paying for. And I taught them all to crochet, and now we're moving on with granny squares, and we're going to make a community project probably for the homeless project in Harrogate, and they're bringing their own patterns and helping them to develop it. So it's a community project, and this is really great because you can look at something like this and think, oh gosh, I could never do that. But actually, I'm not going to give away much of the pattern, but it's just UK treble crochets, UK double crochets, US double crochets, UK treble crochets, which are US double crochets. It's just them. And obviously there's a pattern of increasing and decreasing, but it's a lovely pattern because anybody could do it. And I'm really enjoying it. So yeah. Again, it's a bit more of the colour, slow colour shift becoming apparent. You can see it a bit better now. It's very subtle, which, as you know, those of you who are devoted watchers, subtle is not a word that is often put in the same sentence as Mel Brown, but it is for my mum-in-law, and she is much more subtle. So there it is, looking lovely, very happy with it in my Gemma B Makes Autumn in Nidderdale bag. Yeah, that's going to be going on for a long time, and now I've got myself all tangled up. So that's work in progress number 2. What else? The Shift. Now this is the Andrea Mowry pattern. It's mosaic knitting. So if you've watched before, you'll have seen my mosaic crochet, and I'm now teaching next week. Actually, I am teaching mosaic crochet, the Havana shawl, at a pub near me. It's a great idea. Just go to the pub, sit for 2 hours and teach people. This is mint from the garden. It's just getting to the end. It's getting a bit woody now, and it'll die back soon. So I've really enjoyed fresh mint teas over the summer, and then some green tea thrown in as well for extra goodness. Oh, it's nice. So trying to do this in more or less one take, so there'll be a few slurps along the way. Right, so the shift. Mosaic knitting is like mosaic crochet in that it has a wonderful visual effect, but it's actually relatively easy to do. And the pattern is amazing. I have got nothing to show you because I finished it and it went to the Blocking Queen. It's already been pinned out, I know that. So I will definitely have it, I would think, by next, well, definitely by the time I next speak to you. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you much more about it because it's frustrating to hear about something and not be able to see it, but you're going to love it. It is absolutely brilliant. So that's a finished object, but not finished in regards to the podcast because I'll show it to you next time. The funny thing about that is I was using Shapius Stone Washed for it, and I had some leftovers from my second Hotel of Bees shawl, and I thought I'll just use up these leftovers. And then a lovely lady at Yarn Etc. dropped me in some things, some of these that she wasn't going to use, and I did buy one more ball. And you know what, at the end of using up all these leftovers, do you know what I've got left over? 270 grams. So I'm going to have to do another project now to use up leftovers, which, you know, I'm not complaining, but look. Cream, mostly cream, a little bit of yellow, a tiny bit of grey and a tiny bit of dark green. So there's not much contrast there, so I'm not really sure what project would suit it. It's sport weight, which is not something we use a lot in the UK, so it's 5 ply effectively. So it suggests a 3 to 3.5 millimeter needle or hook, and it's a little bit bigger than sock yarn, but nowhere near as big as double knit. So, answers on a postcard for those of you who are old enough to remember that, or just comments below. Anything you think I can do with 270 grams of not much contrast, sport weight, and it's cotton and acrylic. It's nice and soft. Okay, I don't know what to do with it. I'll put it back in my stash until one of you lovely people comes up with a wonderful idea. Andrea is very good at ideas. Andrea, you get onto that for me. Well, you're still blocking all my stuff for me. Andrew's been very busy on my behalf, and you will see about that in a minute. So that is the shift. Next one is pieces of 8. Now this was a knitted pair of mitts that I was making because I had some leftover yarn. Now let me just check my notes here. Somebody, lovely lady called Sandra, suggested I had some leftover yarn in that beautiful Claire Nettleship yarns colourway, High Hopes. And I had it left over from the pair of socks I made. It's a right scruffy ball, that, isn't it? And Sandra suggested mitts. Great idea. So I found this pieces of 8 mitts, and I showed them to the last 2 episodes. Well, do you know what? They were really getting on my nerves. I'd ordered the 3mm DPNs, but I was chatting at the wool shop while she was ordering them for me, and we were talking about the fact that I've got these freakishly long fingers. I don't know if you've noticed this. Very, very long fingers. And small needles, I can't use them because they don't get to my palm. My fingertips, they don't reach to my palm. So she ordered the longer ones for me. And in fact, I should have been paying attention. I just wanted standard DPNs. But I ended up getting really long ones. And they, I think I must have put them back in the bag. But yeah. And they were just too long, and they were getting in the way, and it was very fiddly, and I'm not used to using DPNs, and I was getting annoyed with it, and then I just wasn't doing it. And I can tell when I'm not going to work on something. No, when something's not working for me, because I'm just not working on it. I didn't pick it up for weeks. So I just frogged it. And there is a crochet version called Octavo. That's another free pattern. And I started that instead. Now, the reason I didn't do that first was that I know I'm not going to have enough yarn. No, crochet uses up more yarn for the same kind of size of thing because it's denser. So I knew I wouldn't have enough yarn to do 2 mitts. But, you know, that's the way it goes. So I restarted that, and then I restarted it again because then it wasn't big enough to go over my thumb. Again, this is a problem with my hands. They're just big. But I got it restarted again on a 3.5mm hook, and it's still a little bit small, but there we go. It's so cute, look. So there it is started, and what you do is you do this octopus of, it's going to become a figure of 8 of increases and decreases, and it winds around. Have a look at it on a Ravelry. The link down below will show you a link to the pattern. Click on it, have a look at it. It really looks amazing. It is quite fiddly still, but I think it's going to be okay. It's less annoying than having all the needles sticking out, so I'm going to persevere with that. And if it does work, then I'll just have to find another self-striping, maybe another of my Claire Nettleship yarns, leftovers, that I can use to make the other one. I don't mind, and it may even not work out being for me, because it's not, you know, with normal standard construction mittens, you can kind of carry on as long as you want, you can make them wide or whatever. With unusual construction ones, they're kind of built for the standard hand, and I've never been able to wear anything for the standard hand, so it's quite possible that when I finish with them they won't fit me anyway, but that's okay. That'll make a great Christmas present. So it's just a matter of finding somebody who, like me, is quite happy with odd things. So yes, quite happy with that. Oh, do you know what, that was meant to be in the new whips on the block section. Gosh, can't keep it straight, can I? Anyway, so that's the replacement for the pieces of 8, and is in fact work in progress if I'm counting this way, number 3. Anyway, doesn't matter. Right, flying south socks. They're actually flying north pattern, but I was knitting them on my way south to Spain, so my flying south socks. Now, I was only using the stitch pattern, not the sock pattern, and they're finished. Let me just reach over and grab them. So the yarn was, what's the yarn? It was, oh, I showed it to you last week. Dina's, that's it. Dina's crafts, what doodle doodle. House, Home of Crafts, that's it. I don't actually know where the ball band is, but I've shown it to you before, so it's not something you haven't seen before. It's superwash merino and nylon. So it's done, they're finished. Here they are. I don't think these socks show up particularly well on sock blockers, to be honest. I'll just show you this and then I'll take them off. You can see the little speckles. I'm not usually a big fan of speckles, to be honest, but I really love them in this yarn, particularly these really deep ones. So this yarn was given to me by my friend Adriana, who I know through the podcast. She got signed us both up for a mystery sock club thing. So we got some yarn, we didn't know what we were getting, and it actually came from the UK, so I got mine first. And I started mine first, and I think I finished mine first as well. So that's maybe a better way to look at them. So it's my standard sock recipe, but just with that stitch pattern in there, and 1x1 twisted rib at the top, which is my favourite rib, and a fisherman's a German short row heel, which doesn't look very, when they've been on the sock blocker they're a bit wonky. So anyway, that's the sock. It's finished. It's they're beautiful. To be honest, they feel like they're too delicate to wear, which is silly, because they are proper standard sock yarn, but they are so beautiful. So now I've shown you them, there's no reason not to wear them, apart from the fact that it's red hot here at the moment. It was nearly 30 degrees yesterday, which is, I put this up last week, in the US, I'll put it up here in Fahrenheit. Probably where a lot of you guys are from, it's not a big deal, but to us in the UK, it's a huge deal. It's way too hot for me. So, no socks at the moment for me, but looking forward to wearing them when it's a little bit cooler. So yeah, really happy with that. And I've got quite a chunk left over, although I didn't do, obviously I didn't do any contrasting heels, toes or cuffs. It's all in the same yarn. I can't even remember where I put it. What a noodle I am. So there's probably about, I would say around 30 grams left. So that probably will be really, really nice in my blanket. Some of the sock yarns that you think, oh no, it's not gonna, it's kind of wasted in my blanket, but I think this will look really good in the blanket because it'll just be a little delicate pink square. I think it'll be nice. So that's where that's probably gone to, my blanket bag, along with those 3mm DPNs. Do you know what? I made a bit of a mistake there as well. Do you remember, those of you who've been watching for a while, you know the Memories blanket? I was using 2.75mm circulars for the first few kind of rounds of it. And then I wanted to use DPNs, and then I just thought it would be easy just to use 2 DPNs. And it is. But I didn't have any 3mm. And rather than just waiting till I could get some, no, I dived straight in. Sorry, what am I saying? Instead of waiting till I could get 2.75mm DPNs. I'm getting confused here. I might have to cut this bit out. I was using 3mm circulars, and then I wanted to switch to DPNs, and I didn't have 3mm DPNs. So I switched to 2.75mm DPNs. So this round I'm on at the moment is actually slightly smaller now. I don't think it's going to cause an issue, but it just means that each section of the blanket is a little bit smaller, and it doesn't, you know, for the same effort I might as well use 3mm. So I thought when I finish this particular round, I'll go back to 3mm. So I need the 3mm DPNs. So when I bought some for the pieces of 8, I thought that's great, I'll be able to use them for the blanket. But another downside of me ordering the long ones is they don't fit the little cover I bought. I bought a lovely little cover from somebody on Etsy with rainbows and things on it that covers my DPNs when I'm not actually knitting. I love it, and it adds to the pleasure of the project hugely. Little things really, really add to my pleasure. And they're too long for it. So I've either got to order some more shorter 3mm DPNs, or I've got to order another longer DPN case. And I talked to my husband about it the other day. He's very good for bouncing ideas off. And I decided that buying more 3mm DPNs is going to be from a large commercial company, but ordering another longer case, provided somebody makes them, from Etsy is going to be from an independent, possibly somebody who's just working from home. So that's a much better plan. So I'm going to buy a bigger case. I've got plenty of time, so I've got to finish this whole round of the blanket before I need to, before I'll switch back to the 3mm ones. But I'm probably talking gibberish right now, but that's okay, I think. Just fast forward. Okay, so they're finished. Very happy with them. Okay. Hermione's Everyday. The cat just coming. You see that click? That's the cat flap reading the chip in their neck. And then it opens up and they come running through. And you can tell who it is by how much the flap flaps. Luna! It's Luna, our newest cat. She's adorable. But I do need to just let her out. Oh no, she's let herself out. Fab. Right. So Hermione's Everyday Socks. These are Christmas socks for Dave. And here they are. I was using this, which is Grundle Hot Socks from Yarn, etc. I love this colourway so much. These colours, I just wouldn't have thought to put them together. So I can find the ball band. That is, oh, the ball band for a different ball. So, kind of nonsense in here, but not what I'm actually looking for. Ah, there it is. So, Grundle Hot Socks. There we go, and that's the pattern. Again, I'm just using the stitch pattern and not the actual sock pattern. One of these days, in fact, I have got plans for something where I'm actually going to use the sock pattern. But. So what I did was, for the heels, because you've got this thing going on, this pattern going on with the yarn, I don't want to break it up and make it look wrong. So I've used some, that's what that ball band came out, some West Yorkshire Spinners Signature. This ball has been really, really useful to me. I obviously favour West Yorkshire Spinners because they're from very close to me, very local. Although my experiences with the yarn hasn't always been great. So I had a black ball from them, which was really didn't like at all. But generally, it's been pretty good. So I got some of that in teal, and I used it for a project, and I've used it for lots of heels ever since. So there's my German short row heel in it, and it's not too dissimilar. I don't want it to be contrasting, and I don't want it to be look like it's trying to be part of this. It's just in a similar vein, and that's all I need. So I have turned the heel on both socks, and I have almost finished actually. Another big push, and I could have, well actually, to be honest, all I really probably need to do is to cast these off. I got Dave to show me what which pair of hand knit socks he likes the length of, and I compared the length of those to these, and it needs to get down to here. And it's more or less there now. So another couple rows maybe. What's really interesting about this is the Hermione's pattern then feeds into, again, a 1x1 twisted rib, but the lines kind of carry on straight up. It's almost, it's not a rib at all really, but the occasional purl comes into this column and this column, and because that's picked up above by the rib, it just feels like a natural progression up into the rib. I don't know if you get that, or whether I'm just wittering, but it seems to me like that rib was really made for Hermione's everyday socks. I don't know what rib she even suggests. Maybe that is what she suggests, and it's not an accident. It's actually a careful design plan by the designer. But I love it, and I love the colours. Do you remember me talking to you last time about the fact that the ball band implies that the colours are all quite evenly spread, when in fact they don't seem to be to me at all. Yeah, they seem to be much less uniform. See, this one is a lot thinner, isn't it, than that one, and so is that. But maybe that's all just one, and they're just variations of darkness. Anyway, that's not what appears what I expected from this, but you know, that's not a problem for me. I absolutely love it. So yeah, really, really love them. Very happy with them. They're actually for Christmas, and it is now the end of August. September, October, November, December, 4 months early. It's under 4 months finished early, which is great. It's fine. So probably what I'll do is I'll just do another 1 or 2 rows and rounds, and I'll just cast those off. So I'll show you them on the, well, I say on the blockers. These are the biggest blockers I've got, and they're not big enough for my socks, let alone Dave's. These are 80 stitches on it. My hair is a bit wild, I'm sorry. It's been cut in a couple of weeks. 80 stitches on each sock, so they're quite wide, these. So yeah, the sock blockers are not going to do any good apart from just something to dry them on really, but I'll show you them properly on the blockers next time when they're all finished off. And then I've got, again, this will look lovely in my sock blanket. Although, do you know what? Depending on how much I've got left, I might have enough left to do the other Octavo mitt. And they're not dissimilar in colour, are they? Let me see if I can get them together and see how dissimilar they are. Oh! Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? They might not even look, I don't know, maybe they're too similar. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's an idea, isn't it? Pair of mitts that are sisters from a different mister. So, really happy with those. And it's just lovely to have another Christmas project finished already. Last year, because I did so many crochet projects rather than knitting, I finished them all and I had to keep making new projects. I can handle that patterns again. Okay, so that's all of the patterns that you've already seen, all the projects that you've already seen. Actually, that lot needs to go in there. So I'm trying not to make too much of a mess when I podcast because the aftermath is grim. Right, okay, so that's all the projects you've seen already. Let's look at, oh, do you know what? There's a couple of things that I haven't shown you since I came back. So I saw Andrea this week and picked up the blocking queen, that is, picked up the things that she's been blocking for me. And I haven't shown you them since then. So this is the Stash of Shells, the mystery crochet along from the crochet projects. That's Jones, Grace and Kat Golding. Here it is. And you can see, can't you, the difference that blocking makes. I mean, look at the way that lace has opened up. It's just so beautiful. And I think the colours are lovely. The kind of generally blues, but with occasional splash of whatever. So the idea behind this is it's actually using up leftover sock yarn. Now, if you are a sock knitter, then you will know that using up leftover sock yarn is one of the missions of your crafting life, because there are so many leftovers. Most socks, depending on how long you knit them, it's unusual for them to use a whole skein. Usually somewhere between 60 and 80 grams is used, which leaves you quite a bit left over, and every pair of socks generates that same leftover. So this is a perfect use of them, because you can make it up as you go along. You change shell patterns. I'm not going to give too much of it away because it's a paid for pattern, but there's 4 different shell patterns, and as you change yarns you change shell pattern, and you don't need to have a specific amount of anything. This is actually more or less symmetrical in pattern amounts rather than actual colours, because it was meant to be symmetrical in colours, but I messed it up. But it doesn't need to be symmetrical at all, and you can just keep going in one pattern until the yarn that you've chosen runs out, and then switch to the next pattern and carry on, and then work back the other way. It doesn't need to be symmetrical at all. So it's absolutely brilliant. I would really highly recommend this pattern for anybody who's got leftovers, particularly if you tend to have a colour palette that you favour, so all of your leftovers will sit beautifully together like these do. So I'm really happy with it. Yeah, thank you, Andrea. So that's the stash of shells. And then the other thing that you haven't seen blocked is Janelle. Not Janelle, sorry, I'm talking rubbish. This is less is more. So this is the jumper made out of hand spun. It's a cardie. And this is all hand spun, mostly spun by me. But this and this is spun by my friend Sarah. And most of the stuff that I've spun, I've also dyed. So it's been blocked, and it's really quite changed it profoundly. Here are the sleeves, and I'm just going to pop it on because I had bought, do you remember me showing you this? I'd bought this clasp to kind of go there to hold it together, because I thought that it wouldn't zip up. Sorry, it's going to be a bit disjointed today. Right, okay, so here is the less is more. So I had thought that I could fasten it here, but it really wasn't going to fasten any lower down because it's just a bit smaller than I am. But once it's been blocked, it's actually, I'm thinking that I maybe could get a zip on there. So it's bulging a little bit, but it would stretch with if it was zipped up. So I'm thinking it might be better to have a zip on it, and then I could use this for my Janelle, which is the crocheted rainbow cardigan, which I love, but it doesn't have any fastenings at the moment, and it's always slipping off, which is really frustrating. So what do you think? Zip it up? I think it would look pretty amazing. Andrea has one of these. It's where I got the idea from. She suggested it, and she's got a zip on it, and it looks amazing. So yeah, that has been blocked and is now properly finished. Well, no, I say properly finished. It may yet get more finishing. Right. Okay, so I keep checking my notes because I'm a bit foggy at the moment. A couple of new things that I have to show you. This I'm going to snap. So you'd already seen this to here was done in May last year, but this up here is new, and it was done just a couple of weeks ago, and it was designed by my daughter on some software based on a design I'd seen someone else having. I love it. It's designed to look like henna, because at my wedding I had henna tattoos and I loved them. I wanted to keep them, but of course they just fade. But yeah, so it's lovely. I'm really happy with that. Something else new. This is PowerShell or abalone. We went to New Zealand to stay with my brother and his wife when our youngest was a baby. And I bought some PowerShell earrings there, and it's always been quite special to us. So Dave got a ring like this, and I got a matching one. So I love it, and of course I've got nails to match now, so I've got ombre in different directions. I usually have different colours, but this week, same colours, but just ombre in different directions. Right, get back to the knitting now. Right, the giveaway. Do you know what? This skein of yarn just isn't going anywhere. The person I drew last week, the second person on the list to win, the second winner, hasn't got back to me. That was Anant, hasn't got back to me. So I was a bit dejected, to be honest, but I then decided that this is the way to make sure that this lovely skein of yarn goes to somebody who is actually actively involved with the podcast and watching it every cycle. So I've redrawn again, and I'm going to keep doing this until somebody that I draw actually gets in touch with me before I record the next podcast. It's not the standard way a giveaway goes, but so this is, for those of you who haven't seen, a skein of yarn that I dyed myself. It's called Shark Attack, and it is now going to Maggie B 011998. That's a Ravelry ID. I don't know anything else about her. So this is Maggie, this is for you. I will post it to you wherever you are, but you need to get in touch with me before I record the podcast again, which will be in 2 weeks. So either get in touch with me via Ravelry, message me there, or you can email me at this address, or you can, yeah, that's probably the best way, or contact me on Instagram. Whichever way, just get in touch on a direct message, and I will send you, and give me your address, and I will send you this. You've got 2 weeks until I record again, and then I will keep drawing until I find somebody who's actually still watching the podcast. Okay, so there we go. What else new? Me and Amanda went to Scrap. Now this is a business in Leeds, and it's a place that takes in industrial, I won't say industrial waste, but industrial offcuts of all different materials and finds people who can repurpose them. So it's a big warehouse, and it's full of stuff like fabrics, like plastic tubs and tubes and labels and all kinds of things. There are some labels there from some well-known high street shops that are just spare labels, but they're a bit of string and a bit of cardboard, so you can tie them on to indicate a certain type of, I don't know what you could use them for, but that's the point. You don't know what you'd use them for until you find the person who needs them, right? So we went there because I'm going to be teaching there next month. I've got an introduction to weaving in September, and I just wanted to go along and just have a proper browse, because I haven't had a proper browse before. So Amanda and I are going to do a big weaving session between the two of us to get some ideas for my workshops. I've got that introduction to weaving in September, and in October I've got my first Learn to Weave day, which is a whole day, a 6-hour day of looking after people, feeding them, and just letting them explore weaving to the extent of their imagination. So I wanted to have loads and loads of ideas and materials and whatever. So we're going to sit down and have a really good explore, try different techniques, try different materials and everything. So with that in mind, I bought some bits and pieces from Scrap, which I thought I'd show you. I bought lots of ribbon. Now these were just £1 for a whole pack, and considerably cheaper than you'd get in a normal shop. But the thing is, you couldn't say, oh, I need some ribbon, I need some gold ribbon that's an inch thick, I'll go to Scrap and get it. You go to Scrap and you get what they've got, and that's the thing. they're not going to keep supplying it. They have it when they have it, and they get rid of it, and then it's gone. So that's the thing with it. It's just you have to go to that kind of place thinking, I want to get something, but I don't know what it is. So I've got some really wide stuff and some narrow stuff. I thought I'd got a fourth, but I must have dropped it somewhere. So narrow stuff that I can just weave with as it is. Wider stuff that I might then double, or I might not before I weave. I have no idea. I also got some dogs having a fight outside. Can you hear that? All the windows are open. I've got some fabrics that are really interesting. These are just offcuts. They're not much use really to anybody. This one's got a hemmed section down here where it's double, so it's obviously part of another project. So they're just offcuts. They're not really useful. I guess you could make bags out of them or whatever, but you know, you can't do much with them. But what I thought I would do is just cut down one of these lines, say here, all the way down, and then use that for weaving. Just give it a go. And then there's some here that have got wavy lines that I can cut down, and there's the same of that in mustard yellow. And then this, which is really, I don't even know if this will work, but I thought we might cut down these lines and weave with those. I have no idea whether this is going to work or not. If it doesn't work, then I'll just use them to make bags, or find, you know, give them to Gemma to make bags or something like that. But the idea is just for weird and wonderful ways. And of course, if those work, then the idea is that you can use any kind of fabric strips and scraps. What I want to do is to encourage people when they come to a workshop to bring their own scraps of stuff. And obviously use mine as well for inspiration, but to use their own, because that's when you're buying stuff to use, then that's fine. But when you're using up stuff you've already got that you haven't got other use for, that's just perfect. So the only other thing that I got from there to show you, and I haven't actually opened this yet. I didn't open it in the shop because it's, you know, when they've bagged something up, it's for a reason. They don't want it opened up. But I want you to see if it's going to be any use. So it's this, a bag of this. So I thought if we weave that behind and then poke the fringes through, then that will be kind of like a ready-made fringe on a weaving. It looked really weird, wasn't it, and interesting. So there's a whole load of that. It's just little offcuts. I don't even know if it's one piece or offcuts, but that's the kind of thing. And that bag was £2.50. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that the scrap stores are really great for. Right, on to the next thing. Hello. Right, it's another light change because I've been out. It's a bit of a chaotic day today. I've taken the cat to the vet and bought some shopping, and I'm back now. So there was one other new whip on the block, but it's really a kind of swatch on the block. If that makes any sense. I was talking to you about the wavy C2C pattern, and it's the version of the corner to corner crochet blanket that has waves in it. Well, I did start a swatch, or I've done a swatch, but it's not really very easy to see. These are bigger than these, that's fairly obvious, and there are different, you can see there are different shapes and sizes. It's a paid for pattern, so I won't give away much, but this is just some DK wool that I bought to do colour work mittens in, but I really didn't get on with them. So that's a swatch, and I understand the concept. And you know all those balls of yarn that I showed you last week, 8 different colours. I'm going to start with that at some point. But I'm having a real problem at the moment, and I wonder if any of you suffer from this. I seem to have a switch in my head between weekend and weekday. Now I work from home, at least some element of my work has been from home since I had my children 18 years ago. And I seem to have, I do teach, I've taught at weekends for many, many years, but when I'm at home, I work during the week and I don't work at home in the weekends. So I have a switch in my head, it's either weekends, in which case I'm just kind of, yeah, just do what I need to do, and then we'll do it all on Monday. And during the week, which is right, let's get down to it. And that works really, really well in term time. But in school holiday time, it really comes back to bite me, because when the kids are here, they're not going off to school, we haven't got all that kind of routine, and I haven't got, you know, the house empties and then I'm on my own. I don't have that. I don't have that switch, and I seem to be stuck in weekend mode. And that's really tricky, because there are, there are things that you want to sit down here, right, I need to sit down on my own in a bit of peace. I need to get everything around me, I need to work it all out, I need to decide what I'm going to do, to think it through. I'm not having a chance to do those things. So the study I'm meant to be doing, I'm doing a qualification in autism, and I've done the first couple of levels, but I've got another 4 to do. I should be working on that, but that's part of the thing. I just can't get my head around it. I can't sit down and study. And the wavy C2C is the same. I need to, it's more of a, it's not a prescriptive pattern really. It's kind of, it gives you an idea, and you've got to work with some spreadsheets, and you've got to fill in some colours, and you've got to just work it through. And I just haven't got the brain power to do it right now. I just can't seem to focus. And normally it's a short-term problem. The school holidays are sort of a couple of weeks at Christmas and Easter, and 6 weeks over the summer, maybe 7. But because my daughter's eldest ones have done their exams this year, they finished early to mid-June. So the time they go back, it will have been 3 months that they've been off. And it's really taken its toll on me in lots and lots of ways. Not being on my own in the house is really difficult. And as when Dave's not travelling, he actually works from home. So over the summer, when large chunks of Europe just shut down, some countries just seem to shut down for August, everybody goes on holiday, and some seem to shut down for July, and he spends quite a few weeks not travelling. So he's here all the time as well. And it's just really hard for me not to get any time on my own. I don't think that's just an autism thing. I think that's I don't know, it's broader than that, I think, but who knows. So I'm really struggling. So the wavy C2C is something like the, reboot, all the weaving stuff, get some ideas. I've only really been doing knitting and crochet, really been doing things that I kind of know how to do. There's not much that I've been doing that's outside of my comfort zone. And I regularly dive out of my comfort zone. As you guys who've been watching for a while know, I'm always happy to try something new. But just at the moment, I just don't seem to be able to muster the energy and the focus for it. So I'm hoping that once school starts, and that's next week, so Tuesday my second daughter goes back. She starts at 6th form in a new school. She's really excited, and I'm really excited for her. She's got a whole new wardrobe, because in the UK you wear school uniform up to the age of 16, and then in 6th form, which is the 2 years from 16 to 18, you don't wear school uniform. Now in the schools here you have to wear office dress, so it has to be something that would be appropriate to wear if you were working in an office. But it's, her own clothes, and she hasn't been able to wear her own clothes to school ever. And she's been at school for 12 years, and she's never been able to wear her own clothes. So that's a big thing for her. And she's choosing some subjects that she's really excited about studying. And it's a new school, and she's not really been getting on well with the old school. And so it's a really big start for her, and that's Tuesday. And then Wednesday, my third daughter, the autistic one, is going to start back at school, and she's well out of her rhythm. She's never been in a rhythm. She's the only autistic person on the planet possibly who doesn't like structure and routine, so she hates being in a rhythm. But yesterday she slept pretty much from 9 in the morning till 5 p.m. So she slept for the whole working day, and then she was up most of the night. So trying to get her back into a rhythm is going to be really, really tricky. But then the eldest, she doesn't go, she goes to uni in just under 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks. And then of course, once she's gone, we won't see her at all for 5 weeks, and then she might come up for a visit, but generally she's going to be away for 10 weeks at a time. So it's still going to be a little while before I really get to be on my own. But yeah, I'm really struggling with it. Does anybody else have that problem? Do you struggle with that when the kids are home? And usually I'm quite excited to get them back to school and sort of, start a fresh routine for me. But because I'm so worried about getting Annie back into school, I'm really not looking forward to it at all. So I've got a kind of double-edged sword going on. But anyway, that's the way it is at the moment. The exam results were really, really good. They're both very intelligent, but they also work really hard. They both got well more than they needed to take the next steps. So Lizzie's going to the university she wants to, and it's an English university, which is relevant because that means it's a shorter term and a shorter degree. So 3 years rather than 4, which would have been in Scotland, and 10-week terms rather than sort of 13 and 14-week terms. So that's all good, and you know, they both got way more than they needed, so it's all great. What else? I was thinking how lovely knitting is, you know, for making connections with people. I went down to Bristol, which is in the southwest of England, for those of you who are not from here. It's about four and a half hour drive each way, and we had lunch with my parents. And I got my knitting out while we were down there. I often do when I'm in social situations, and I can't sit still without doing something. And the lady, one of them, the waitress, came over and started talking to me about knitting, and I love the way that the crafts can sometimes really make a connection with people. And that happens to me regularly, that I knit everywhere I go, and regularly people will come over and start talking about, oh, I used to knit, or you know, whatever. But then sometimes I can knit in front of sort of 20 or 30 women, and not a single one of them actually seems to knit or crochet or have any interest, which is really strange, because you know, most women of my age and a little bit younger and all the older ones will have learned to knit or crochet as a child. So it's puzzling. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, it's just lovely how it really helps me to make a connection with people when I'm out and about. It's really nice. Okay, right. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, one thing I'm planning, which is, there's a book here somewhere, and I can't find it. Oh, there it is. One thing I'm planning, I dyed some yarn for a project. It was a Stephen West, and I actually didn't like the pattern, and I stopped doing the pattern. It was Chevron Shenanigans, I'm thinking. But one of the yarns that I dyed for it, my second daughter fell in love with. But, you know, it was in a project, so. But then when I decided not to do the project, I thought, right, okay. So this is the yarn. I don't know whether it will look better in that one or in that one. Scruffy little skein, little balls. But it's a very delicate kind of shades of pink, and you're thinking, that's not very you, Mel. But I dyed it, I don't know whether I dyed it specifically for that project, or whether it was just one of those where there was a bit of red left in the pan and I just chucked a skein in and saw what happened. Can't remember. Probably if you go back on the podcast, it will probably tell you. But it's there, and she would like a pair of socks for Christmas in it. And she's chosen, you know, I said earlier on I might actually be doing a whole sock pattern. She's chosen one from this book that I've had for a while. I have done one pattern from it, I think. And the pattern she's chosen is called Kai May. I'm going to try to show you the pattern. That's what it looks like. So it's a really interesting design down here, but as you can see, you can't just put the stitch pattern into my sock recipe. I've got to knit the whole thing, and it's top down, so I'll only probably do them one at a time. So I'm going to start on with that fairly soon. Kai May it's called. There it is. So I'm going to get on with that fairly soon. There's a little marker in there. That's not a Christmas knitting project. That's all really at the moment. I just really need to just get everybody back into their places and then just take some time to think. I'm really struggling with headaches at the moment, which I think probably are social hangovers. Too much time spent with people, not enough time spent on my own. We had a bank holiday weekend here, and I went out on the Saturday, and I was out all day on the Saturday. Too much heat, I got sunburned. Too much people stuff. Didn't have the opportunity to go and, you know, take a break from that because we were out in a different town. And I got a headache that evening. I went straight to bed, and then all day Sunday and all day Monday I was in pain. I was taking medication, and it's just ridiculous. But I think it's social hangover. It feels like a hangover. I've got a dry mouth, I've got a pounding head, I feel sick. It's just like an alcohol hangover, but I don't drink alcohol. So it's really weird. I need to get back into some kind of a rhythm. Anyway, okay. Right, it's been a bit disjointed this time and I'm sorry about that. I hope that you have enjoyed it anyway. If you have, do please click like and say something down below. I've been getting a lot of comments recently and I really enjoy it. So tell me what you're thinking about, what you enjoyed. And Maggie, get in touch for Shark Attack. If Maggie hasn't been in touch with me when I record the next one, I will draw again. I'll keep drawing until I find somebody who still watches. There must be somebody who still watches, who entered, right? We'll find you, whoever you are, and I will send you this lovely skein of yarn. Just to go back to what I said before, if you're interested in any of the patterns or the people or anything that I've mentioned, just click on the link below and it'll take you over to Ravelry, and there are clickable links to all the patterns and everything. Maggie, message me, email me, whatever, and I'll send you this. And yeah, have fun. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Happy crafting. Bye.